11.
And thank you for choosing us tonight. I'm Brian McElhatton, and we begin with the news that toxic soil and liquid from Ohio may very well end up in Indiana. The Environmental Protection Agency plans to send some of the waste from the Ohio train derailment to a landfill in Rochdale. That's a small town in Putnam County. The announcement sparked plenty of questions, including how that waste will be stored. 21 Alive's Alex Null joins us with some answers tonight. Alex.
Earlier today, officials with Heritage Environmental held a news conference to try and address some complaints from the public. Officials also tried to ease fears, saying their facility operates under the most stringent environmental laws in the country. They explained how their operation works and how they say they contain the hazardous waste.
Monday, the EPA announced contaminated waste from the Ohio train derailment will make its way to a landfill in Rochdale, Indiana.
We've got the facility that's able to handle that material.
Officials at the facility, Heritage Environmental, say they're prepared to safely manage the waste.
It is well below the levels at which we are allowed to receive material.
Officials say they will receive soil with low levels of vinyl chloride and other chemicals from the crash site. They say there are several steps they must follow before they accept the waste. Officials add the facility, quote, helps prevent leaching chemicals into waterways.
Here, the material is cordoned off and sequestered and covered in a double-line, heavily regulated unit. So there is no exposure to the material here.
Landfill officials say they expect to receive 2,000 tons or, quote, roughly 100 truckloads of waste from the Ohio derailment site. They acknowledge the concerns of the community, but say they have the expertise to safely dispose of the waste. The facility manager, Eric Chris, says there are regulations in place to ensure it doesn't damage the environment.
Water flows in and out of underneath the facility, so we're monitoring upstream and downstream to make sure there's no contaminants leaving the facility.
Alex Null, 21 Alive News.
And while that company insists that it can safely handle the contaminated waste, 21 Investigates has uncovered violations of environmental laws at that very facility. We checked the EPA's database of violations and found the Rochdale site has had 12 quarters of violations going back to 2020. Now, the government doesn't detail the specifics of those violations other than to say they involve the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. That is a broad federal law that outlines how hazardous materials must be handled and stored. We should note the violations were not considered significant in the government's eye, but we are working to learn more about those cases. We've contacted the company for its response, and we will update you once we hear back.